welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into, well, the really fascinating and sometimes quite unexpected ways artificial intelligence is changing things. It's not just evolving, it's rapidly reshaping our world.
Absolutely. From, how big companies think about strategy, how they operate.
All the way to really personal stuff,
Yeah.
right? Like aspects of human life you wouldn't necessarily connect with AI immediately.
Exactly. And we're going to cover four main areas today to really get a handle on just how broad this impact is.
Okay.
We'll kick off with its strategic side, surprisingly enough, then look at some ethical bumps in the road for AI businesses.
Right.
Then we'll analyze how it's shaking up whole industries, causing this big consolidation. And finally, some genuinely amazing breakthroughs in healthcare, specifically fertility.
That's a packed agenda. And as always, we've dug deep into your sources, pulled out the key insights, the really important bits. We want to give you that shortcut to being well-informed. Expect some surprising facts, some analysis to chew on. Okay, so let's unpack this. First up, can these large language models, these LLMs, actually show, like, real strategic smarts?
That's the big question researchers tackled.
And they used a pretty classic setup, right? The iterated prisoner's dilemma, the IPD.
Yeah, exactly. For anyone unfamiliar, it's basically a game.
Yeah.
Well, it reveals a lot about making decisions when you're not sure what the other guy will do.
And where acting purely selfishly can actually backfire on everyone involved in the long run, unless you think strategically.
Precisely. And the study, it was quite clever. They took LLM agents from OpenAI, Google, Anthropic, and threw them into these evolutionary IPD tournaments against well-known strategies.
But they added a twist to stop them just sort of memorizing winning moves.
Right. They introduced this thing called the shadow of the future. Basically, the chance the game will continue.
Okay. So uncertainty about how long the interaction lasts.
Exactly. It makes you weigh short-term gains against potential long-term payoffs or punishments. It forced the models to actually strategize, not just recall patterns.
So how did they do? When these AI minds went head-to-head, what happened? Were there surprises?
Oh, absolutely. Big surprises. The LLMs weren't just surviving, they were highly competitive. They actually proliferated in these complex game environments.
Wow. Okay. But the really interesting part, I thought, was how different they were. These distinct strategic fingerprints, as the researchers called them.
Yes, that was fascinating. Google's Gemini models, they were described as strategically ruthless.
Ruthless? How so?
Well, they'd exploit cooperative opponents, they'd hit back hard against defectors, and interestingly, they'd even ditch being cooperative if that shadow of the future was short, if the game seems likely to end soon.
Like a cold, calculating game theorist. The source compared them to Henry Kissinger, didn't it? Real politics.
Exactly. Unsentimental. Then you had OpenAI's models. Kind of the opposite.
Highly cooperative, but that wasn't always good.
No, it proved catastrophic in hostile environments. They just kept trying to cooperate, even with aggressive opponents who were taking advantage of them. They couldn't adapt.
Like Woodrow Wilson, the source said. Idealistic, but maybe naive against cynical players.
That was the analogy, yeah. A principled and stubborn cooperator. And then there was Anthropic's Claude.
The diplomat?
Kind of. The most forgiving reciprocator. It was remarkably willing to try and get cooperation going again, even after being exploited.
So cooperative, but not rigidly so. It could adapt.
Precisely. It seemed to have a better grasp of the social dynamics of the game, considering the long-term. Sophisticated. The comparison there was George H.W. Bush, careful diplomacy.
It's pretty amazing that they developed such different styles. So are we sure they were actually reasoning strategically, not just pulling answers from their vast training data?
The evidence points strongly towards actual strategic reasoning. There are three main reasons the researchers felt confident about this.
Okay.
First, many situations were totally new to the models, especially playing against these novel, unpredictable agents like random or Bayesian. They couldn't have just memorized responses for those.
Makes sense.
What else? Second, those very different fingerprints we just talked about. If they were all just regurgitating the same training data, which presumably includes all the classic IPD literature, why such distinct strategies?
Good point. OpenAI reads the literature and thinks cooperate. Google reads it and thinks be ruthless depending on the time horizon.
Exactly. It suggests different interpretations, different reasoning processes. And third, the models actually provided explanations for their moves, their rationales.
By their own words.
Yes, in prose. And they explicitly talked about probabilities, about adapting their strategy based on what they'd seen the opponent do. Real-time adaptation.
And I remember reading about a fascinating edge case these hallucinations.
Right, that was really telling. Occasionally, an OpenAI model would actually misread the game history, get the past moves wrong.
But it still chose to cooperate.
Yes, which strongly suggests its reasoning, even flawed reasoning based on bad data, was driving the decision. It wasn't just making a move and then inventing a justification after the fact. It points to a genuine, if sometimes imperfect, strategic thought process.
Wow. Okay, that's mind-bending stuff about AI strategy. Let's pivot now. From abstract intelligence to a very real-world business headache involving AI.
Right.
Our sources covered this recent backlash against Cursor, the AI coding platform. They quietly changed their pro-plan pricing.
And users were suddenly hit with surprise charges and quickly depleted quotas. Not ideal.
No. And Cursor admitted they handled it badly, right? Poor communication.
They did. They apologized, said the changes hurt that trust they had with users. There was a bit of back and forth changes on June 16th, some clarification attempt on June 30th, and then a fuller apology and explanation on July 4th.
So what was the actual change that caused the fuss? What was the old plan versus the new one?
Okay, so previously it was request-based. You got like 500 requests a month. Some fancier models cost 2 requests per use.
Simple enough. And the new Pro plan.
It got more complicated. You get unlimited use of some features, the basic tab completion and stuff in auto mode. But for the powerful frontier models, it switched to API-style pricing.
Meaning you pay based on how much computing power, how many tokens the model uses.
Exactly. You got a $20 credit included each month and could buy more if you went over.
And Cursor's justification was?
That these newer models are doing more complex, longer tasks that use way more tokens. So API pricing better reflects the actual cost because some requests cost, 10 times more than simple ones.
But the communication breakdown was around that unlimited part.
That seems to be the core issue. Unlimited only applied to the basic auto stuff, not the advanced models people really wanted unlimited access to. Cursor did say, though, that most pro users actually don't go over that included $20 credit.
Still, perception matters. So they've promised to do better.
Yes, they committed to more advance notice, clearer documentation, better support during transitions, and importantly, they offered refunds for unexpected charges during that messy period between June 16th and July 4th.
This really throws a spotlight on a big challenge for AI companies, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
How do you price these incredibly powerful but also incredibly expensive and unpredictable frontier models sustainably? Especially when users might have gotten used to a feeling of, well, all you can eat. It's a real tension between cost recovery and user trust.
It forces a rethink of value, definitely.
Okay, so from one company's growing pains, let's zoom out again, how is AI impacting entire industries? We're seeing massive changes in the data world, right? A big consolidation.
Oh, huge. A drastic transformation, as one source put it. You see these big deals like Databricks snapping up Neon for $1 billion, Salesforce grabbing Informatica for $8 billion.
Why now? What's driving this buying spree?
It boils down to a core belief. These data companies hold the key, like the missing piece needed for big businesses to really succeed with AI.
Because AI is data hungry. Garbage in, garbage out.
Precisely. Success is seen as being determined by access to quality underlying data. Without good, clean, accessible data, your AI initiatives are likely to stall.
And Gaurav Dhillon, who co-founded Informatica, he basically said this AI wave forces a complete reset in data management. Companies have to rebuild their data platforms.
Yeah, he emphasized that. But he also added a note of caution, questioning if just buying up companies founded before this current AI boom, pre-ChatGPT, is the right move. He pointed out AI in its current form is really only like 3 years old.
That's a fair point. Is the old tech the right foundation for the new AI?
It's the gamble they're taking. The data landscape before this was incredibly messy, sprawling, and fragmented.
Right, billions invested in startups doing just one little piece of the data puzzle.
Over $300 billion between 2020 and 2024, yeah. Lots of startups focused on single features. But that just doesn't work well when you want AI to roam across all your data to find insights or build apps. AI needs a unified view.
Like that Fivetran and Census example. Fivetran moved data in, Census moved data out.
And buying Census created one company that could handle the whole flow, something customers used to need 2 vendors for. Simplification.
So what's pushing this consolidation from both sides?
Well, 2 main things. First, customers are just fed up. Sanjeev Mohan, a former Gartner analyst, said users hate having tons of incompatible data products and especially struggle managing metadata across them all.
They want simpler, integrated solutions.
Exactly. And second, it's market reality. A lot of those data startups are finding it much harder to raise new funding now.
So getting acquired looks like a pretty good exit strategy.
For them, yes. And for the buyers, the big platforms like Databricks or Salesforce, it gives them more power, better pricing leverage, and edge over rivals. They get to pick up the best solutions relatively cheaply.
So the big players are betting heavily that owning the whole data pipeline is the path to AI dominance.
That's the bet.
But the big question remains, as Jillian hinted, will bolting these pieces together actually deliver the seamless AI-ready data platforms enterprises need? Or is it just shuffling deck chairs?
It's a massive strategic play. One source noted, a lot of the value is in merging the major AI players with the data management companies. We'll have to see if that value materializes.
Okay, from the boardroom battles over data, let's shift to something incredibly personal and honestly quite hopeful. AI's role in fertility care.
Yes, this is a really moving area.
Our sources highlighted an amazing story, a couple trying for 18 years to have a child.
0.1 years, unimaginable.
And now they're pregnant thanks to an AI-assisted technique. The challenge they faced was azoospermia.
Right, that's a condition where there's essentially no measurable sperm in the male partner's semen sample, a huge barrier to conception.
And the traditional options were pretty limited and often invasive.
Very much so. Things like surgery to try and extract sperm directly from the testes, which can be uncomfortable, potentially damaging, or hormone treatments, or using donor sperm, which isn't the path everyone wants to take.
But now there's this new method developed at Columbia University Fertility Center STAR, sperm tracking and recovery.
Yes, STAR. And it sounds like a genuine game changer. It uses AI connected to a microscope with a high-speed camera.
And it just scans the sample incredibly fast.
Incredibly fast, like over 8 million images in under an hour. It identifies any viable sperm cells, even if there are very, very few.
It instantly isolates them,
Yeah.
puts them in tiny droplets.
Exactly. The source used a great analogy, searching for a needle scattered across 1,000 haystacks and actually finding it.
That's incredible. And there was that anecdote from Dr. Zev Williams at Columbia.
Oh, that was striking. Highly trained embryologists searched a sample for 2 days and found nothing. 0 sperm.
2 days.
And the STAR system, it scanned the same type of sample and found 44 sperm in 1 hour.
44 versus 0. That's, wow.
It really highlights the power. Dr. Williams stressed that STAR can find literally 2 or 3 sperm in samples where you'd normally expect millions. For men who previously had basically 0 chance, this offers real hope.
And STAR isn't the only way AI is helping in fertility, is it? It seems like it's touching many parts of the process.
No, it's much broader. AI tools are being developed to assess egg quality, like CHLOE. Others screen embryos for health before implantation, like Stork-A.
It's also personalizing treatments.
Yes, helping to tailor IVF medication protocols to individual women, identifying the healthiest sperm even in challenging samples, and even getting better at predicting overall IVF success rates based on various factors.
Dr. Amy Ivazadeh had a great quote. AI is helping us see what our eyes can't. It amplifies human expertise.
That's a key point. It's augmenting the experts, not replacing them. But it's also important to include the cautions.
Right, not get carried away by the hype.
Exactly. Dr. Gianpiero Palermo from Weill Cornell Medicine raised some important flags. The risk of giving false hope if these technologies are rolled out too quickly without enough validation.
Are the current AI models always reliable? Like for embryo evaluation?
He noted inconsistencies there. And methods like STAR, while promising, still need more widespread validation. Plus, he emphasized you still absolutely need skilled human embryologists.
And the hard truth that, for some men, even the best AI won't find sperm if there simply aren't any there.
Precisely. Biology still plays the ultimate role.
So it's this incredible potential offering hope where maybe there wasn't much before, but it comes with a strong need for caution, for rigorous science and ethical application.
That sums it up well. A powerful new tool, but one that needs careful handling.
What an incredible journey today. We've really seen the sheer breadth of AI's impact, haven't we?
We really have.
From watching it develop almost.
Oh.
Personalities, strategic fingerprints in those game theory tests.
To the very real-world ethical tightropes AI companies like Cursor are walking with pricing and trust.
To then seeing it drive this huge shakeup and consolidation in the data industry.
And finally, these deeply personal, potentially life-altering breakthroughs in fertility care. It's quite the range.
It really underscores that AI isn't just another piece of software, is it? It's a dynamic force.
It really is. It challenges how we think about intelligence itself. It forces us to be really careful about how we use it. But it also offers these profound solutions to problems humans have faced forever.
We're seeing it not just doing tasks, but actually reshaping how industries work, how we approach challenges, even how families are formed.
It's happening fast.
So, as we wrap up, here's something to think about. If AI can develop these distinct strategic styles, almost like rudimentary personalities in a game, and at the same time unlock answers to complex biological puzzles like finding a single sperm cell, where else might it surprise us? How else might it mirror or even extend what we think of as uniquely human capabilities, perhaps in areas we haven't even considered yet?
A fascinating question to ponder.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.